Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Linda Castillo, and I'm with the Modern Latina Book Club. And I'm super excited to have here today the author Molé Mama. And we have been completely loving the book, Abuelita's Magical Molcajete. And I just wanted to say how happy we are to have you here. And before I get started, I wanted to give a little bit of a bio about, um, I know her as Diana, but you will find her easily as Molé Mama. Uh, you are San Diego-based home chef, author, YouTuber, and podcaster. And your YouTube channel celebrates family recipes, cooking delicious meals at home, and adding love to every recipe. You have been diving into your Latina roots. You use the magical molcajete and other tools and techniques to make your food taste like grandma used to make it back in Mexico. Your first book was a tribute to your mom, Molé Mama, a memoir of love, cooking, and loss, where you shared an intimate journey of your mother's final 13 months. You cooked your mother's heirloom Mexican recipes every weekend while Rose, your mother Rose, presides from nearby hospice bed and completes the taste test to ensure Diana has perfected her favorite dishes. And, I think one of the things that it's stated in your bio here was that you hope that your story will inspire you to be courageous, present, authentic, and vulnerable during your farewell journeys. Diana didn't understand the road she embarked on that afternoon and the joy she experienced cooking with her mother for more than 20 years. But none of these multi-generational recipes had been written down, nor could Diana make them out without the help of her mother, and thus the urgency for the final training from her master chef, Rose. And I feel like your fictional story really does play on, love, connections, and so much more. So I think I'm just going to delve into some of the questions to talk about what inspired you to write this is your first fiction novel, correct?
Yes, it is. Yeah. So, Linda, thank you so much for having me and all the members. Thank you so much for reading my book. And I'm just thrilled to have this opportunity to talk about Abuelita's Magical Molcajete. And the inspiration was really interesting. I had been sick and was in the hospital. And it was during the peak of COVID. I did not have COVID. I had a minor heart thing going on. And while I was in the ER and I could hear people screaming and all this, not, it was just a crazy time. I remember asking myself, if you had one more year to live, what would you be doing? And I heard really loudly, you'd be writing every day. So I'd always had this dream to be an author. And I'd written the first book, and then I tried to write a cookbook, and I'd start it and I'd stop it. So the next morning when I'm out of the hospital, I sit down at my laptop and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it every day. I'm going to just show up. And at 5:45 in the morning, I started with, I'm answering my divine call to be an author, and here I am. And I just, guide me. And literally the first thing I heard was a pounding of a molcajete. And it just came into me. The whole story unfolded. And so every morning I showed up at 5:45 to 6:45 and I just wrote. The book didn't have a name. There was no outline to it. I was just writing and just having fun. And it just kept just download after download after download. And after like 3 months, I had 50,000 words. So I reached out to my writing coach and I said, I think I have a book. And it's right now it's called November 30th, but I think it's magical realism. And, it's about all these women that I grew up cooking with. They're all based on real women. And I go, I think it's really fun. So I think we should talk. And so that was the inspiration was, um, I finished the first version of this book in 6 months. It
Wow.
just literally just flowed. And sometimes my husband would come into the room early in the morning and I'd be giggling. He's like, what's going on? I'm like, you're not going to believe what the Diaz did today. And he's like, what is going on with you? I'm like, no, they had a cake fight. And he's like, what? So yeah,
Yeah.
that was my process.
Yes, and we loved all the characters. I mean, I love, I loved them. I loved all the like the different personalities, and they really just shine through in the writing. So you did a wonderful job, and
Thank you.
so it's a good thing you followed that calling that, the book that was inside of you. So thank you for bringing that. And it kind of segues into my next question. I wanted to ask you about the name of the book because you said it was at first called November 8th, So how did the name of the book come about and also the magical Molcajete? That's like, what is the significant element of that in the book?
So the title came about because my abuelita, when she immigrated to Mexico, to this country with a coyote, she had one suitcase and in it was her molcajete. So she brought it with her from Mexico, and I have her molcajete. I use it. It's in my kitchen, and I do think that it has some magic to it. And my mom, it was passed to my mother when my abuelita died, and then my mother gave it to me. And so I there's something about it to me that it's volcanic rock, and all these women that I loved and I cherished, they used it. Their hands were in it. They were making food for us, and their food was amazing. So there is just something very central to, I think, to our culture. I'm not the only one. I've talked to other Latinas who have molcajetes in their heritage and they get passed from generation to generation. And the way that it crushes spices like garlic, you can just get the flavors bursting out of it. So I think there is magic there. So when I was, talking to my writing coach and I told her what I thought the name should be, because it was strong. It was like, Abuelita's Magical Molcajete. And she's like, but nobody's going to know what a molcajete is. And I go, you know what? Then it's not for them because it is such a huge part. I feel like, and I'm writing a sequel to this book, and the Molcajete even has a bigger part in the next book. So I think the Molcajete is her own character. So I'm like, yeah,
Okay, we can't wait to see that, your next one. Uh,
yeah. And Linda, I wanted to go back really quickly because I
yeah.
hit on it just briefly, but all these women, all these characters, they're all based on real women that I cooked with. I grew up on a dairy farm, huge family, and I cooked with all these women. My tia Amelia, she really did smoke cigars and she really did drink. Like she was a widow, very young. She had 5 kids. She worked in a factory. She worked like crazy, but on her days off, she was smoking a cigar and playing poker with her girlfriends. And they were drinking. So some of these things are based on real just characteristics. And for me, during COVID, such an isolated period of time for most of us, to be able to spend time with these women that I loved so much, it was amazing. And also, I was a little girl when I was hanging out with them. So to explore the conversations that they might have with me, with someone as an adult, what consejos would they actually say? And, they didn't say to me as a daughter or a little girl. It was very, very fun. And you mentioned my mom, Rose. And in the first book, my mom dies, but I brought her back as a ghost in the second one. So I love that. I love that I got to bring her back.
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, I wanted to talk about a little bit. I love that they were on specific family members and that you grew up with um and I wanted to talk about a little bit how this story weaves in the themes of tradition, family, and magic. There was very key lines throughout the book that, not only were, teaching the traditions of the recipes, but also growing and growth and connections and family traditions. So if you can just touch and reflect about why they're important for you to share through your storytelling and why storytelling is even important. And, I feel like this book really came from you and it was your calling. And so, how did you weave all of that into this book?
So I think it's so important to share our stories, especially brown stories. It's hard for us to get those stories out there. I don't want to go into the politics of all that, but it's tough. But our culture is so rich and vibrant and filled with love and wisdom. So it was important for me to give a narrative that reflected that wisdom, that, yes, the Latin culture is about food, but it's not just food.
Mhm.
I think there's so much wisdom, there's so much joy, there's so much love and connection. So I wanted to have that kind of be front and center for people when they were reading it. And it's been amazing to me for people to come back, and readers have said, I went and bought a molcajete. I bought one for my sister. We're actually having a cooking club on Sundays, and we're cooking together once a month. So I mean, I'm like, that's, to me, just that is the magic of this book, is that this connection that I think, so many of us are so busy, and we're working and raising children, and we lose that piece that when we cook together, there's something magic that happens in the kitchen. There's
Yeah.
something about the conversations. I don't know what it is. I can't label it, but I think there's something very kind of an ancient tradition that happens when you're in the kitchen with other family members and friends that I wanted to remind people of.
Mhm.
So,
Well, I want to say I appreciate it. I'm not a super cooker, so I appreciate it that the tias and Abuelita let some shortcuts come in there, because they, recognizing, that Ria is, working full time and busy, and just so I appreciated that, and I thought it was really, really, I was like, okay, I love this. But I want to just share, I remember making tamales with my grandma, and I remember when I was in college, we had to do a presentation on how to do something. And so I did that as my how to. And I never I never saved the recipe. And it was back in the days, like I went to college where there was no like videos on phones. I mean, I literally, it was a disk that I saved the recipe to. And so I know it's somewhere. I printed it, and I really want to like find it and make my grandma's recipe with my children, because I think it's so important to pass those traditions. And yes, so let's see. So I'm going to continue. I have a couple more questions, and then I'm going to
okay.
open it up for, I see some folks are joining in, and so we'll take some questions. But I did want to ask you a little bit more about, what did you hope the readers and message and lessons that they would take away after reading your novel?
The key one was hope,
Mm.
that you'd have hope, that there's, I lost my sister a few years ago very tragically. And so I pulled from a lot of my own grief when I was writing the story. And I think it was hope and the connection and the power of love. And, sometimes we might lose our immediate family, but there's doors that open, and there's always an opportunity to create new families and new connections. So it's really about hope.
And I really think, seeing Maria evolve, like from how her life was and just how she opened herself, and, seeing her journey through the book, really showed the hope and everything that, the connection and the power of love, everything that you just, answered. And um, let's see. Okay, so how did you balance the magic and the realistic aspect of the characters' lives? And then, how did you find the balance, or, say, okay, I'm going to make this happen, and tell me how that process went.
So it was things that I wished could happen in the kitchen. I'm just going to be straight with you.
Cleanup. I wish someone could come up. I was just like, yes, I would cook way
Right?
all the
Like
time.
all the ingredients, they show up. Woohoo! You don't have to shop for them.
Yeah.
And the cleanup, like the cleanup.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be amazing if like you cooked and just somebody just showed, and all of a sudden it was just all clean and perfect? Wow. So that's how I did it. It was really based on like what I would love to see. And the wedding scene when the dress is destroyed. And so that was just fun and whimsical. So sometimes I just took liberties where I was just like, I still tried to pull food in it. So like, of course, the dress gets fixed with flour, but it really was more of me going, what would I love? And
Mhm.
also I have this thing where I feel like we're always connected to our ancestors. And having the opportunity to just, because I continue to talk to my mother. I'm like one of those crazy people who does. She's been dead for 13 years, but I'll still be going like, Mom, what's wrong with this restaurant? Like, what? So I just wanted to show that whimsical. I think they are around. That's just my own belief, and just make it fun. And for people that cook or intimidated to cook, to be like, wow, wouldn't that be fun? Like, wouldn't that be just fun? So that was my fun part of the whole story is the magical realism of it. Yeah.
I want some fun to clean the dishes, ingredients to pop up. I love that. Um, so, I was wondering what kind of advice would you give to authors out there who are, who are wanting to, write their first book and incorporate their own culture and heritage into their writing? And maybe, like you said, when you said, oh, a lot of people didn't know what a Molcajete, and you're like, I'm still going to follow what I want it to be that name. And so what advice would you give them?
So first of all, I would say give yourself permission. Give yourself permission to write your story,
Mhm.
and write it for you. The first draft, write it for you. Don't edit it. Don't think about your readers. Just let it come through you and write it for you. Because you're going to edit it. Like, I don't even know how many times, so many versions we've gone through with this book, but write it for you. And then I would also say that we are in a unique situation where there's so many tools available to help you self-publish. It is very hard to get your book published with a publishing house. And the big five, even if you get a deal with them, they're not going to give you a lot of attention unless they really think they're going to make a ton of money from you. So it's a great time to self-publish. I'm just telling you, Abuelita's Magical Molcajete, I had an agent. She had it for a year. She didn't do anything with it. Then I had a publishing house that wanted to publish it, and they just kept pushing the date out and pushing the date out. And my husband is in marketing. I'm also in marketing. And my husband's like, you know what? Just get it out there, Diana. Just do it. And I was like, you know what? I am. And I have control. I have the rights. I named it. The cover is mine. It's loud and it's fun, and that's what I wanted. So I would say our stories need to get out there, and there's never been a better time with tools available that you can do it.
Love that.
So don't let a big publisher stop you.
I love
No
that.
way. Just go. Because those stories need to be told. They need to be shared. They need to be shared. And I have had so many non-Latinos read my book, and I love it. And I've been at different book festivals, and people will come in and go, "What's a molcajete?" And they've never heard of it. And I explain it to them, and they're walking out, they bought a book. So to me, they've made a commitment to understand a little bit about my culture, and I want to be a bridge across cultures.
Mhm.
And that's how we create bridges, is we tell our stories, because we have more in common than we do have differences. I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
So anyway,
And I
sorry
think
to get out my little soapbox.
no, I think having those stories is important so people can understand that too,
Yeah.
that there is more similarities, commonalities, and differences. Um, so one of the things that I always ask authors is what are you reading right now, or do you have a read that you recommend for our book club to read next?
Okay, so I went through my list because I'm a huge Audible person. I listen to books like crazy. And so I know it was controversial, but I loved American Dirt.
Mm.
I don't know if you guys have read that yet, but I loved it. I have a lot of family members that have immigrated from Mexico for many different reasons, and that book really resonated with me. I also love Isabella Allende, so I've read The Wind Knows My Name, Perfect Mexican Daughter. And so those are the three that I don't know if you guys have done yet, but I would definitely do. And then if I can pitch one that's not written by a Latino, but oh my gosh, I love this book so much. It's called Remarkably Bright Creatures. And the main character is an octopus.
Ah,
It is such a fun read. I think they're making a movie out of it. I've listened to the book 11 times.
wow. I had not heard of that book. So
Yeah.
remarkably bright
And
creatures.
it's a,
Or
creatures,
Pictures.
remarkably bright creatures. And it's, yeah. And it's told through the part of the story is told through the voice of a sassy octopus. It's just brilliant.
Oh my gosh. So is
But
that
it's also
something
about
my
it's
daughter?
also about connection and family and opening. So I think there's a lot of similarities to my story in that story.
Aw.
Yeah.
So we have read two of the ones. We have not, I have not put on American Dirt in there. So maybe that'll be one of the ones we let the book club vote on to see as, you know,
Yeah. Because
next
it's controversial. I know it's very controversial,
week.
but yeah, I really liked it.
Well, I'm gonna open it up because I see we have a couple of members on the call and I wanted to make sure you guys had some time to ask any questions.
Thank you. I have to drop for a class, but I wanted to hop on here really quick. Um, First of all, thank you so much for writing this book. At first, when I'm going to be honest, when I first started reading it, I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to like this. But as I started reading and reading and reading, I'm like, oh my God, I have to read at least a chapter every day, because it's so good.
Thank you, Anna.
Today, I started crying reading it. Like it just, I lost my brother 4 years ago.
Mm.
So when they're in the car and Julian sees his abuelita, and he can touch her and talk to her and sees her, I was like, God, I wish I could see my brother the same way. So
Mm.
I just want to let you know it goes beyond the food and beyond. It was just very much, and it wasn't a sad thing. It was just like, God, I really wish I can close my eyes and this can happen. Like, there's so many people I'd love to talk to, but most especially my brother. But anyways, I just wanted to share that piece with you. I do have some questions. Mark Anthony, he keeps coming up, and I'm like, what region of Mexico are they from? So I'm half Guatemalan, so I get like the whole salsa thing, but I'm like, what region of Mexico? Mark Anthony keeps coming up and up.
It's because I love him.
I love him too. I was like,
I absolutely love him. I've seen him in concert. I listen to him all the time.
same.
Always on when I'm cooking. So that's just a little Diana thing.
A little piece of you. I love it, but I was like, I gotta know, are they from the DF or where are they from? And then the
No.
other
And
thing
my family, a lot of my family loves him. So yes.
The other thing I was curious about, two things about the recipes, like what region were they coming from? And like I would love, because I was like, wait, did she share? Mind you, I got up today, made flour tortillas. I was like, did she share the recipe? I don't know. I think I'm gonna have to wing it. So I was like, it'd be so cool if she did kind of like a agua pa chocolate kind of thing where they share the recipe. So keep that in mind for your next one.
Yeah, I've had that request a lot. And actually what I've been working on is when I go to events, I have recipe cards that I pass out.
Oh.
But all of the recipes that are in the book are on my website, on my
Oh,
blog.
okay.
Yeah, and they're on my YouTube channel. So yeah, they're all out there. I just need to, I've had that request. I need to do something about that. And from a region perspective, so I grew up in Santa Maria, California, which is on the central coast of California, near Santa Barbara and San Luis
Hmm.
Obispo. And so there was a small, it was almost like a little town outside of Santa Maria called Betaravia, where all the migrant farm workers lived. And that's where my abuelita, my mom, and all her family grew up after coming to this country. And my grandmother eventually, they worked in the fields, but eventually my grandmother had like turned her house into a little boarding house. So for other migrant farm workers that were coming to pick the vegetables, there's a lot of lettuce and broccoli that's grown there and so forth. And so I think their food was influenced by all these people from different parts of Mexico, because my abuelita's from Jalisco.
Oh, okay.
But then the enchiladas that she makes are Sonora. So I think that this, and like her Spanish rice has cloves in it. Like I've never met anybody that has Spanish
Yeah,
rice
I
with
saw that. I
cloves.
was like, is
And
it
I
colorful?
do, I think that it was because my mother would talk about all these different people that would stay with them. And I think that they were just like, oh, let's try it this way, let's try that. So I think that's what happened.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so cool. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you for writing the book. And it's, like I said, I described it yesterday as a book that has grief, love, family, and food. Like, it's a recipe for something good. So I've enjoyed it and I look forward to the sequel.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hi, I also appreciate having read this book. This is my first time joining this group, so this was a nice way to join the group. And I could really what Maria's experiences really resonated with me in part. I too have a loved one that has passed, but also I'm a faculty member at a Catholic university. So and so one thing that I have been thinking about is your attention to religion, and thinking about the Guadalupana. And also, I really appreciated the chapter with Padre Paolo. And, I think it speaks to the patriarchy of the Catholic as a church as an institution, but also at the university level, right? And I wondered if you can speak a little bit about, you know, what what how did that come about, you know, and just kind of if you can speak to what made you think about writing about that.
That's such a great question, Lydia, and thank you for reading my book. And this is the first time I'm being asked about this, so this is great. So when we were going through edits for my book, my writing coach really wanted me to have a conflict between Maria and Enrique at the end, right? We had to have some kind of conflict. And I'm like, they're not. I refuse. They're like a great, no, it's not happening. I'm going to make it happen in their career. Um, I worked in tech for 20 years. So I had some bosses similar to him. And also, I went to Catholic school. So I went to Catholic school and Catholic high school, and my youngest son actually went from grammar school all the way through college. He graduated from St. Mary's Moraga. So all the way. So I've had a lot of exposure to that. And in my house, my home, La Virgen de Guadalupe was like a member of our family. So my mom always talked about her. We always prayed to her. So a huge part of just my growing up and my culture. So when I was thinking about what could possibly go wrong, that's how he came up, was just based on a horrible man that I knew. So, and based also on some of the experiences that I had, in the Catholic Church. But frankly, my experiences in the Catholic Church were pretty good compared to others. But so that's how it came about. And I really danced. I tried to stay clear of a lot of things, but I know there's a lot of favoritism and things that happen like that. So I exploited it. So, but yeah, and I had, received a lot of double standards in my career as far as what a woman could do versus a man. And at one point, one of the companies that I worked at when I was really young, I was not allowed to wear pants to work. I could only wear dresses. And if your nails weren't polished perfectly, you had to remove the polish before you went into the office. And I used to travel a lot with this job, and I was never allowed to be seen alone talking to one man. Yeah. So I just took some liberties there and went for it. But I also, Lydia, in my house, I have a prayer bench that's the Virgen de Guadalupe that's made out of tile. And then I have names all over it of people that have asked me to put them on my prayer bench. So it's a big part of my culture and just kind of who I am. She is. So I love that part, pulling her into it, because she is, like I said, part of my part of my existence and something that I really believe strongly in.
And I appreciate that because it really resonated with me while I grew up as a practicing Catholic, and I teach at a Catholic university. I'm not, uh, I don't practice that faith, and yet I still hold on very dearly to La Virgen de Guadalupe in a very, I really believe in her power. And
Mhm.
so, and so I really appreciate it. And some of the conflicts that came up with the Padre Paolo, I'm like, yes, that's so true. So I appreciate hearing that. I'm sorry to hear that this, you wrote this in part through, as, having gone through some experiences yourself. But, so thank you for, um, sharing that. So, yeah.
You're welcome. Well, and also, when I wrote her office of not having any windows, that was also my writing coach was like, Diana, you can't do that. That's exaggerating. And I'm like, no. I have a professor. I have a very close friend who's a professor. She used to teach at San Diego State University. She is a woman of color. And she told me that her office, they took a broom closet, and that was her office. So I was like, I have an example. We're going to do it. And I go, because that's part of the whole thing, that sometimes women are just, or yeah. And I love that she got to shine and do something completely different. And then they were like, wait, don't go anywhere. So
Lydia, you're on mute. I don't know if you were saying something a little bit ago.
No, I was just acknowledging what Diana was saying. So, yeah.
thank you.
Well, I don't know if any of you ladies have any other questions or thoughts, but I just want to say how appreciative we are that you took the time from your schedule and just, brought this into the world. I mean, I would say that follow your calling, and like I loved how you shared, carving out that early morning time to just, block it out and get your story on paper, and just and the advice you gave, and just I will just ask, you said you're working on your next novel. So do you have, I mean, it sounds like it is going to be a sequel to this one then, and any timing, and we would love to have you back too.
Yeah, I was hoping it was going to be the end of this year, but I think it's going to be the end of next year. It's taking a little bit longer than expected. However, it's going to be about Tia Hoovey.
Ooh.
Yeah, Tia Hoovey. Tia Hoovey gets herself in a lot of trouble. So, and of the Tias, so Tia Rosa was my mother, and Tia Hoovey was definitely my aunt that I was the closest to. And she lived to be 93 years old. She just died a few years ago. And feisty, so incredibly feisty. And she never threw cake at my tia Trini, but I know she wanted to. I just know it. I was there. I would see it on her face. And so having the opportunity to have her throw that cake, it's just like, yes. So yeah, that's what the second one's going to be about. And I think there's at least going to be 3. I'm not sure, but with the Tias, I think they have more adventures in them.
Yes, we love them. We loved each of them. Um, I don't have any other questions.
Okay.
I just want to thank you again for joining us. And ladies, I don't know. I was telling Diana that I was gonna put this. I'm recording it, but I can cut it off at the questions if you guys or if you're both comfortable. You let me know if I
It's fine.
can.
On my part, it's fine. I don't know if
Okay,
Lydia.
Lydia, just ping me. Let me know. I want to be respectful because sometimes, we share things in these spaces that you're like, oh, wait a minute. I didn't mean to share this. So I'm fine with cutting it after my questions but um, again, thank you. And Lydia, thank you for joining. Hopefully you can join us for other readings. The Modern Latina Book Club, I want, I've made the space to support Latinx authors because, as you were saying, Diana, it's so hard. It's so hard to get on the shelves. It's so hard to like get our stories out there. So that's really why I started the Modern Latina Book Club. And I'm always open to suggestions. And so I sometimes I pick one, and this is one that I picked and had us read. And then other times I'll do a poll and then like see which, what resonates with everyone in the club, and we choose that way. Or sometimes there's just like something new coming up that everyone's reading. And like I think the Perfect Mexican Daughter was one of those ones where it's like we got to read this. We got to read this
Yes,
now. We're not going to vote. We're just going to do it. So I hope you ladies are enjoying the readings, and I might take a summer break. I think the next month we might just take a little break and everyone can read and share what they're reading on their own. But we'll have to see. But I think that's it, ladies. Have a good evening, and I thank you again for joining.
Yes,
Diane,
thank you so much.
I
Thank
just
you.
want to say I'm so glad you self-published. This is definitely a book that many Latinas can relate to, and it needs to be shared. So, and I'm in Chicago, so I'm definitely sharing it with my friends and family. So please continue to self-publish your books. We need your voice out here.
Thank you so much for saying that, Lydia. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
And I'm going to share with the video, I'm going to share your website for the recipes, because I know a lot of folks were probably thinking the same thing. I was thinking, I want that margarita like recipe too. I was like, there's a lot of, so I will share.
That's my husband's recipe, and they're dangerous. They're
Oh,
really
okay. They sound, yeah. I was like, oh, there's a lot of recipes we wanted in there, but I'll share your website as well.
Okay. All right.
Have a
Thank
good
you so
evening.
much, ladies. Have a
Thank
lovely
you.
night. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.